April. I'm the president and founder of Retail U. We're an online leadership development company. We focus on retail. My whole career has been in retail, sales, and operations. I'm really excited to have this coffee chat today because it's the first time that we're talking about mindfulness and meditation and wellness. Like the other ones, we've really been featuring retail leaders and their careers. But, you know, the time that we're in right now and where we're at in COVID, it's becoming a hot topic. Everywhere I read on LinkedIn and every article, it's all about mindfulness, meditation. And I've been doing meditation for a long time. We've had some requests for it. So I think it'll be a good idea. We thought it would be a good idea to basically, you know, have Sarah on and have her talk about mindfulness and meditation. So I'm going to pick her brain. So, I'm super excited. So Sarah, do you want to introduce yourself, who you are, what you do? Just quick overview.
Sure. I said, April told me I had 4 minutes, so I'm already stressed out. So my name is Sarah Hauk. I was born and raised in Winnipeg, moved to London, Ontario to do a master's, built my company in Toronto, and then have just since moved back home to Winnipeg to be with my husband and raise our family. So my entire life, if I want to kind of just shorten it up, I was diagnosed with a life-threatening illness when I was really, really young. I saw the light, died twice, and my physical illness caused me to have a lot of mental illness also. There was so much anxiety and depression around this being sick and all the things that I had to sacrifice and give up. And my mom was a doctor, and I thought I wanted to be a doctor my whole life. But by going to hospitals all over Canada and the States, for my personal journey, my sister's a doctor, but I realized medicine was not for me because it didn't give me the answers I was looking for. And it wasn't until I started meditating that my physical symptoms went away. And that was so confusing for this like science-minded kid. Like, what is meditation? What the heck does this mean? And there was no 1-800 number to call, like 1-800-spirituality. You know, I went to like the local library and took out Tai Chi VHS tapes. Just like, I was just like the coolest kid that you ever met. Yeah. But I was looking for answers because this was the first time ever since being sick that I wasn't feeling terrible. And so I actually traveled all over the world trying to understand meditation, working with incredible healers, or if you want to call them gurus or whatever. And when I overcame my symptoms, I was approached by one of my personal training clients to develop a corporate wellness company. And I was like, oh, okay. And I kind of went into this role thinking, like, if I got fired tomorrow, I just don't care. Because I was 21, I lived at home, like I didn't care. But I was so, he wanted me to put together this wellness program. I'm 36. That was 15 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. And they wanted to know, they wanted to be about health, but I remember driving home one day and I saw this homeless man on the street, and my mind said, that guy just does not care that he ate his fruits and vegetables today. And I realized, I was like, health is, because in every corporate wellness program 15 years ago was all about better blood pressure and healthy heart. And, 15 years ago, looking at this homeless man and reflecting on my own journey, health was not just about physicality. Health was this like giant wheel of wellness that encompassed all different kinds of aspects. And if one wheel of that wellness is falling apart, then, all the other spokes on this wheel are affected. Mental, social, emotional, financial, spiritual, even, relationship health. And so in this corporate wellness company, I was so blessed because I was just, I was really, really good. I did a lot of stuff for really low amounts of money, but I created this revolutionary program that encompassed all aspects of wellness. I created a giant volunteer team that overtook different aspects of wellness. We had meditation classes. It was so fun. And it won like the Blue Cross Award. It's benchmarked to this day by like even the government of Manitoba here in Manitoba. So I created in the biggest HVAC company in the world, which is EH Price here in Winnipeg. And so it was, it was a really big accomplishment. But then at 23, they said, okay, Sarah, you're a contractor, but we want to hire you. You know, we want to send you all over to all of our companies. We want to send you to the UK. We want to send you to the States. You're going to work for us and build this everywhere. And all I heard this person say to me was like, we own you now. And at 23, I was like, I'm so sorry. I quit. And I was like, nope, I don't want to do that. Thank you very much. And because I was still 23 and I still didn't know who I was. My whole life, every day, I was just looking for my purpose.
Right.
I had this inner purpose in me. And I feel that more and more people today are looking for this purpose.
They are, yeah. And it's interesting that you say that. We're going to get back into because I'm interested about the whole LinkedIn meditation thing as well, because I was on a LinkedIn Live the other day about that with a ton of business leaders. But I think, the finding your purpose, like I know working in retail for a long time, I can relate to what you're saying because I was on this journey of I fell into retail. I was good with people. I was, pretty process driven, and I kind of got promoted through the ranks. But at the same time, from the outside, people were looking at me going, oh, she's so successful. She's got this title. But internally, and I write about this in the book, actually, that's about to come out, is I still felt like I hadn't found my purpose because I felt like retail chose me and it was just to pay the bills for a long time. And I meet people like that all the time. But when I actually started digging into more finding my purpose 7 years ago, when I started to, what do I want to do? As I grown up, I'm a grown up now. What do I want to do? I was like, oh, my purpose is people. So I'm in the right business, So my purpose was inspiring people, encouraging people, being positive. And those are things kind of I took for granted for a long time. I was just like, it's just part of my personality. But they made a difference in a leadership role in retail. But I didn't really value it for a long time because it seemed so simple. I was like, no, I got to be a doctor or something. I don't know, it just felt so simple. And I think a lot of people in retail management positions probably feel like that,
Yeah. I do. I think so. I was never in retail, but a lot of my friends were. I was never a server, but a lot of my friends were. And we'll talk about so basically, long and short of it, I escaped Winnipeg. I pursued a master's at Western University. And then I eventually moved to Toronto because when you start to wake up, I believe, to this purpose, what's the first thing that starts to happen? And maybe some of you have experienced this before or are experiencing it, is the first thing is this jolt of awareness. It's almost like, have you ever gone to a bar and you're like, this is the sexiest bar I've ever been in. Oh my God, everything's so lovely, And then all the lights come on at 2 a.m. and you're like, this is the ugliest place I've ever been. Right? There's stains everywhere. The wall color's different than you thought it was. And you're like, oh.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what happens as soon as this inner awareness hits you. You look around your life and you say, I don't think this is my life.
Right.
I don't think this is what I really want. And it really sucks when you're like, I don't think this is the person I want to be with, especially if it's a marriage. And it's certainly not easy when you look and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm a head manager, I'm a senior manager, but this is not the job I want. This is not me anymore.
Yeah.
And you've built this life and you have a mortgage and you have car payments and you have this responsibility. But there is nothing, I believe, that is more uncomfortable in this lifetime than knowing you have a purpose and not knowing what it is.
Right. So I'm looking at time as well, right? So
Sorry.
I said, I'm going to keep steering you and asking you questions because we want to.
I told you 4 minutes. It's terrible.
It's all good. All right. So you were you built your business and you're a meditation teacher through LinkedIn. I want to dive right into some questions around leadership and mindfulness and meditation, because mindfulness, meditation, they're two words that are being talked about a lot in the corporate world right now.
Yeah.
But what's the difference? Can you demystify mindfulness versus meditation? Because I believe there's a difference, right?
Yeah. And it's okay. Here's the thing.
Or is there a difference?
Totally. 100%. it's not that you, okay, so a mindfulness practice and a meditation practice is like it's a practice. It's like when you're going to the gym all day long, you're moving your body.
Yeah.
But there's specific, when you go to a gym, you have maybe specific goals, you want to get better at it, etc. You're probably mindful at some point in your day, and you're probably meditating at some point in your day. You may not just be aware of it. Mindfulness is having an awareness of the present moment. It is bringing yourself back into the moment that you're in right now. It is not judging any thoughts or feelings. So it's being aware of your thoughts, it's being aware of your emotions, but it's not judging them. So especially if someone's dealing with anxiety, this is hugely helpful for them, because it takes them out of worrying about the future, for example. But if we're talking about wanting to create companies that are revolutionizing their industry, or they really want to support their staff in a completely different way, I believe that mindfulness is only going to take you so far. So, let's say you have Amy, and Amy is your manager of all of your staff in the retail business, and Amy, maybe Amy cares too much about what people think, and she can't be an effective manager because she's too sensitive to other people's feelings and isn't setting healthy boundaries. Mindfulness will help her be aware of that. Mindfulness is going to help her not judge herself. But meditation is helping you to actually transcend your current thought processes and change.
Okay.
Meditation helps you to tap into an inner wisdom. And if you are looking at, especially if you're a business that is creative at its very core, meditation is going to help you to tap into this inner wisdom and not be recreating something that other companies are doing.
Okay. So that is really... So there's definitely a difference. I like the way you broke it down, because if I'm in a situation, like, especially if you're in retail and you're dealing with customers and managers and leadership all day, and you're trying to become mindful and not judge and like not make assumptions. I say that a lot. Don't make assumptions about people. Really stay present and ask really good discovery questions. But meditation is going to take them to that next place of inner peace, transcending that moment if they're practicing it.
Totally.
Okay. So then so you've worked with leaders over the years, right? In your corporate wellness, and like what you do now with energy and all that good healing stuff. So like, what have you learned working with leaders over the years, and why is it so important for leaders now to actually start embracing meditation?
Do I only have 4 minutes?
No.
So what I believe is that, and I've even worked with some of the assistants, some of the hugest not-for-profit volunteer companies in the world. And it's interesting, not that, this isn't true for all people, of course, but these assistants will say, my boss is out there basically showing the world how to make the world a better place, and he treats his entire staff like garbage. This one woman worked for a company, and like, she was fired when she took a few days off after her father died, and yet it was like one of the biggest corporate wellness companies in the world. And you're like, that's insane. Yeah. We are coming to a time of no secrets, and people's authenticity is so apparent. And everything you are creating is an extension of you. You can't think that if you're creating something with the best intentions and the best education and the best plan, that your weaknesses aren't also being put into that creation. And that's not to scare anyone. It's just to be honest.
Right.
And just to be honest with your people. Like, you don't have to come into work and talk about your fight you had with your partner, but be authentic. Yeah, please don't. Right? We don't love the tea, but like, maybe not at the workplace, And so for leaders to be effective, and it's such a huge responsibility to be a leader. And I don't know that enough leaders really and some leaders are put into roles of leadership at such a young age, like the manager of a store when they're 21,
Yeah.
That when you, for example, when I worked at EH Price, there was this gentleman who definitely, if there were anger management classes, like, we should have put him in it. But when you helped him to like when you help people with that wellness, when you help leaders to care about themselves, to care about their mental health, to care about their emotional health, to care about themselves, it affected everybody around them, everybody.
Mm.
Their entire team changed. Even he told me stories of how his children, his relation with his family was changing.
Right.
So as a leader, it can't be lip service.
Yeah, I believe that because we teach in leadership skill building. You know, you have to be a role model and you have to lead by example to be a good leader. Like you can't say something and then not show it, right? So I always say leadership is always about self-development, always about learning, always about improving yourself. Because when you're improving yourself, guess what happens? You help everybody around you because you now have the skills to be able to do that, right? Like if you're in a leadership role and you're not actively learning a new skill that can help somebody, you're not learning it for yourself, you're learning it to share it with others and teach others. And it's kind of the same thing with meditation, right?
A good leader is going to look at its team and see where there's holes. There's going to see where the systems don't work properly. If you run a giant corporation, you want the corporation to evolve. You have to also evolve.
Right.
And so it's not just to really stand in your power in the powerful places of you. You have to be comfortable to go into those weaknesses that you have and to elevate those back into the whole also. Because I cannot, this is just Sarah's opinion. Other people don't have to believe me.
Yeah.
But I believe that everything you're creating is an extension of you. And the places you're afraid to look inside yourself is going to be where you're going to have weaknesses in your company.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. When you think about, when you think about a mindfulness culture, let's go back to mindfulness for a minute, or a mindfulness culture in an organization. You know, my worry is that it's this buzzword and people create a checklist. Like you said, like I remember back in the day when, say 15 years ago, when I was a district manager and we had this wellness thing come into the company I was working on, and it was like a chart on the wall and it was what we were going to eat for the week. And it's not a bad thing because it made us all mindful, right, about what we were eating and stuff like that. But it did seem like it was a bit of a, you know, it was like what was going to fix everything in that moment. And it was just like like having a contest or something like that. And so, you know, did that really change us? No, it didn't change me back then. I became more physically fit and what I eat in the last 3 years, actually, because I'm just aging and I got more aware through meditation and everything to look after myself so that I could be in service to other people and be more of a role model in it. But so how do we make sure that that doesn't happen with mindfulness? Because my concern is probably it's going to, right?
Mm-hmm. I think it will. That's, you know, that's my belief. You asked me like before, like, how do we make mindfulness not a trend? And I think mindfulness will be a trend. I think mindfulness will be a trend for a lot of companies, because if you want to hit that Fortune 500 or you want to be a best managed company, like here are all your boxes you have to check off. You have to have a green living and you have to have yoga and you have to have this. And, you know, this is totally an aside. I wrote a book on eating disorders because I had one, and you can't take an eating disorder away from someone. An eating disorder actually holds them together. You have to look at why do they have an eating disorder. And so, yeah, you can like tell people, eat healthy, do this. Oh crap, sorry, I didn't realize that was on. Oh, that was a Zoom blunder. Sorry, everybody.
We're all human.
That was my mom. Okay. So
yeah, you were saying about the why, looking at the why.
If you're telling your staff to like eat healthy, exercise, like as a manager, do you not think your staff already knows this?
Yeah.
Do you think your staff has never opened a magazine or a book and thought to themselves, I should probably be healthy? And now it's on the wall. Thank you for reminding me of the thing that I know I should be doing and I'm not doing.
Right, right.
And so I think it's also important, if someone really wants to implement these programs, is to also address, you know, maybe why don't we do this? Why don't you want to, like, why aren't you taking care of yourself? Why aren't you doing it? So if you're going to implement a mindfulness practice, you know, why don't you do it? So I think that I believe that if you're going to implement a system like mindfulness, you have to have at least some kind of manager whose entire job it is to nurture the people through the process. Because here's the thing about mindfulness and meditation that, like, I should warn all managers, all employees, all owners, it is going to bring up people's stuff. And if there's not also some education on how to deal with this stuff, it's going to be a problem. Now, the cool thing is if you allow people to look at their stuff and offer them ways to deal with it, now we're talking a complete evolution. Now the company's going to go to that next level.
Yeah, then you're transforming the actual environment and creating a mindful wellness culture as opposed to just putting a band-aid on it, right? Because we're all human. We all show up in our job every day. We want to do a really good job. We want to be recognized by people. You know, we want to earn more money. Most people want to get promoted. All these things are important. And then, you know, what I've learned in the last year, and I say this to Jane all the time, is I can't get fired anymore for what I say.
It's nice.
I mean, like, I was an executive, right, in a publicly traded company, and I work for a lot of companies. And, you know, I present things really well. I'm a very positive person. Everybody that knows me knows that. I've got great communication skills. But, you know, yeah, there was times where I was like, you know, not being my authentic self. And now I look back and say, oh man, I could have helped it if done things a bit differently. And really, like, I think I did transform the teams I was working within. But like, my goal now is to help leaders do that even more with their teams, like you're saying, because there is a new generation of workforce coming in. And we were talking about that a little bit the other day. Like, I have a 22-year-old that called me the other day and said, is there a problem that I'm just not driven to achieve success? I just want to make a difference on the planet. And I was like, that's brilliant. I'm like, we need more people like you. Our generation kind of didn't think like that. So that's why now you guys have to come and fix it, you know? So, you know, and so I thought that was great. But as leaders in retail, we are leading all these younger generations coming in and having to work with them. And we need to continue to fuel that purpose in them and create those cultures. So I love what you're saying about create a mindfulness program, but then have the other support systems in place. Like, if you're in human resources, how can you help your managers deal with things if they do come up? And then you're really transforming the culture in a different way, right?
And if you, like, I could go into all the, like, I have all my notes here on like the science of meditation and what it's going to do for you as a leader. Like, it is all around proving better levels of focus, you know, better levels of creativity, like everything that you want to be as a manager. And so I feel like if you're a manager and you have to meditate, it is just going to make you better at everything that you do. And reach out to April or myself and we can give you tips if you're like, I don't even know where to start. You know, I even posted free class.
I was going to say, so if there was 2 or 3 actions that we could take when we leave this call, because obviously the Retail U members are going to see this as a replay and we'll post it on social.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important, like, what's one thing that if we got off this call and we did differently that would actually start making a difference in our lives? Because meditation can be overwhelming and like, I don't know what that is. You know, is it an app? What is it? Do you know what I mean?
I totally know what you mean. So there's so many topics I want to talk about. The most important thing you can do, I believe, if there's one thing you can take off this call, is to relax. To train your body to relax. You want to talk about Bruce Lee, you know, like, think about Bruce Lee. Like, he was one of the greatest fighters in the world, and he was always in a relaxed state. That's how he could move like that. That's how he could redirect. That's how he could adjust. And he focused so much on relaxing. So I teach a max meditation, which is called the Max Meditation System. It's free every Sunday if you want to do it online. And the very first step is learning to relax your body. Because when you are dealing with a stressful situation at work, or there's an employee that's just really, really needing some discipline, and if you aren't relaxed, you are always, always, always going to act out of the subconscious. And the subconscious comes from the past and from the future. It's like when you get into a relationship, you're like, I'm going to be the best boyfriend, girlfriend I could ever be. And then you present all your best qualities and you have all the best intentions. But when you merge into that relationship, oh my God, all my problems with my mother are now coming out of my mouth. and that wasn't my intention at all. And your husband's getting mad at you, and really you can just hear him yelling at his own mother to you, and you're like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And if a manager is to think that this is not happening in the workplace, that's insanity. You can hire the most competent, educated, successful human being. They are not devoid of baggage, and they have their own programming. Meditation, though, is going to create an opportunity for people to empower themselves out of these programs and to overcome limiting belief systems by reprogramming the mind. That's why the max meditation system works so much, because not only is it just sitting in Om, being silent, it's actually reprogramming the mind to dump out and to reprogram it to positive, creative ways of thinking. So if you were just to sit and go from your feet to your head and physically say out loud, feet relax 3 times, calves relax 3 times, this is going to train you to put yourself into a relaxed state on your command, so that you can make better decisions.
Interesting.
Yeah. Second, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay, sorry.
So much right now. I'm loving it.
Yeah. So one of my clients, he, big time Toronto businessman, and I would just hear him complain about all the new millennials that are coming up. These damn millennials, they're the bane of my existence. And I understand how much recruitment costs. Like when I was the corporate, like the wellness manager at DH Price, they kept me on because I was saving them so much money in recruitment and retention costs.
Right.
Because the staff were like, I only stay here because the wellness program's so good. And so meditation's also going to make you, it's going to make you think in new ways. Just because you think it's right doesn't mean it's right. If you have all these millennials that come up that are really, need a lot of nurturing, well, why don't you just give them some nurturing? These new millennials are going to change the world. They are so in touch with their purpose. They are so in touch with how to make your company better and how to raise everyone's mindset to a better place. Maybe let's start to think about different ways. My father was a deputy minister here in Manitoba, and he figured out, he was an anthropologist before he was in politics. And so he understand how these millennials worked. And millennials just want to have the opportunity to show everybody that they can do it. They want big levels of responsibility. So my father would bring them in on a low price point, but he would offer them tremendous amounts of responsibility. My father would help them achieve success. And then my father would actually say, April, we love you here. We don't want you to go, but you need a better job now. I'm going to help you get a better job. And then this created a wheel of the most competent staff members wanting to work for my dad, because they knew that my dad was going to help them get to the next level of their career.
Now I'm relating, if I think about that, when I relate to retail leaders then, and managers and district managers and directors that maybe are a different generation, it's important that they actually understand that. Because I think a lot of times now we'll kind of be like, oh, well, they don't have the experience, they're too young. I don't want to give, you're not trusting people with the responsibility. But maybe another way of looking at it is, giving them projects and responsibility and working together to see what they can come up with so that we can empower them, which we know in leadership is important. But hearing that from you even, and just that story of your dad just confirms it, right? Even more. And it's good for us to hear that over and over again, because we only live off our own experiences, which I love what you said about meditation, retraining the brain and rewiring it a little bit differently. I mean, I found meditation, 15 years ago now, where I went and sat in a Buddhist meditation temple, and I was sitting there, I don't know what to do. I felt weird, awkward. I felt like I had to not think of anything, which was really impossible because I was thinking about stores and customers and employees all day. And I was like, how do I just quiet this mind? And that's what I love about your max meditation, because it's active. And what you said about relaxation, it makes such a difference because you're reprogramming it with words. And that's happening it's happening to us all day through media, through the news, through watching COVID-19 right now. So my thing is, if you're going to lead a big team of people or a small team of people or a team of 3, you better be paying attention to what is going on here so that you can show up and make a big difference for the people in the organization. Because at the end of the day, when you have a leadership role, you have a huge responsibility of other people, and that responsibility starts with you, right? So I'm just looking at time. It's 1:37. If anybody has any questions, you can put some questions in the chat. We can we can answer them, or we can just keep chatting. We've got about 5 minutes left. We usually wrap up around 45 minutes, so it's not too long.
Amazing. Can I speak some Sarah truth really quickly?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, yeah, because sometimes I speak with business leaders. I'm like, I should put my business hat on, but I'm just going to put my Sarah hat on and just be me.
Sarah hat
on. My business now is my business is all across Canada. I'm an energy healer. I work with people healing, and I know that we are spiritual beings that are guided by something that is more than just expectations that other people have for us. Mm-hmm. You know, I moved out of Winnipeg because in Winnipeg, when you're 23, you get married, and then you buy the house, and when you're 25, you have kids, and there's such unbelievable pressure to follow this mold that you're supposed to lead for yourself. And I had to escape that because I didn't want any part of that. I just wanted to be me. I wanted everything to come to me in the way that it was supposed to come to me. Mm-hmm. You have an opportunity to create a company, to create an environment, to create a day, to create a moment that is either going to be influenced and you're going to put together someone else's vision. It's about the money. It's about this. Listen, money's awesome. I love money. But if your goal is to make more money, what are you doing? What are you doing? Mm-hmm. We're moving into a new era where it is really about making the world a better place. Mm-hmm. It is about changing the world. And that starts with what's in here. You can't change anything around you if you're not changing what's inside of you. And when you change what's inside of you, slowly that kind of ripples outward into your closest relationships and then your workplace, but so for anyone who's out there, just remember you have a purpose. And if you still haven't found it yet, or you're still tweaking it, keep going. It's so hard. But if any of the most inspiring movies or stories you've ever watched or read have been about people that followed their own journey, about people that went through that all. Our human experience is about experiences. It's not about living someone else's story. It's so much easier, but it's no fun, Yeah.
It's so true. And I think sometimes just being in the corporate world for a long time, and now being able to create Retail You with Jane and do what we're really passionate about, which is provide amazing leadership development for companies and to help their leadership teams. But it's so many people that I work with, I've worked with hundreds of store managers and district managers, and they are making a difference in the lives of people that they work with every day. They're building teams, they're building, mini families. People that I worked with in retail, they would come to work and they would say, God, my shift is the best experience of my week, because you know what? At home, it's not so great. But when I come in, I look forward to working with the team of people that I'm with. And, sometimes, that might not seem very significant because it's well, I'm just a store manager, it's not seen as an educated job. It's I know that because I was one of those people. But what I want to say is you make a difference every day with the people that you lead, the teams that you work with. One thing that you say can have an impact negatively or positively on the person that you're working with your customers. And we have a big responsibility, because I do believe that you can't change the world unless you change business leaders. The world revolves around business leaders. Retail is the 3rd highest employment sector in the world. And I know that there's retailers closing and coming and going. There's announcements happening. But as long as I've been alive, retailers have closed and another one's popped up. So I just believe that's going to continue to happen. Me and Jane talk about shopping is a pastime that people love. I don't think that's ever going to change. Okay, it might become a bit more, you know, what am I buying, and more choices. And like you said earlier, Sarah, the story behind things and why, and like the purpose back in business. We had Phil on. She's a VP from Ardennes HR, and she said about putting the soul back in business into HR business leaders, which I think is super impactful. But I think we all have a responsibility. We make a difference in the lives of those we lead, and we have to start with us. And so I think meditation, I would encourage anybody watching this to join Sarah's meditation, and I can share it on the Retail You page. I post it on LinkedIn and stuff because it's so powerful. I know, you know, sometimes in business we have this, like, we talk about our personal lives and our personal journey, and then we put our business hat on and we live two separate lives. Sometimes, you know, because we're in corporate, and I don't think that's really healthy for any of us. I know I've experienced it, and I'm fortunate now that I get to just be me and like create a company that's just what we do. And it's not that different, but like, it's just, I feel like these worlds are colliding right now, and we need to embrace it because that generation coming up is making us as well, right? So,
and don't be afraid of the death and rebirth cycle. Like, allow things that need to die in the company to die. Allow mindsets, systems, programs, just let it go. Don't, that's not a sign of failure. Otherwise, like, you know what I mean? Like, when you put compost in the bin, your trash becomes the fertile soil to plant new seeds.
right.
And by letting things go that are rotting in your company, it's just going to make everything flourish.
That's a really good analogy. I like that. Because sometimes we hang on to, no, this strategy is the best strategy, and it's because it's my strategy and my team did it. And then you're like this fight of like, just let it go. Like some things are just going to change, and that's okay. And some things just need to, you know, I remember with my team, I just feel like, if it's not working and it's not making sense, there's got to be a reason for it. It's just not working, you know? Like, let's try something else. We're all very creative people. Yeah, so I'm just looking at time. Oh yeah, go ahead, Murray.
Sorry, yeah. I was too complicated to put into words into the chat, but thank you so much for that exchange. That was extremely interesting. And I was wondering, Sarah, if you have what would you recommend businesses do now, you know, because do you think it's better to go in with like a proper full mindfulness program with like someone who champions it and sponsors it and everything, or do you think there's a way to do small actions that still have a big impact and don't fall through the cracks, you know?
That's such a great question. I think that well, you should call me or April. See, I might be spiritual, but I'm good at sales. But I think that if it would be working with someone to see, how does mindfulness work with me first? So if I'm responsible and it's my responsibility to bring something forward, see how it works for you. Because I think that each company is going to be different. I think some companies, if they have the budget, they can bring someone in they believe in and champion something. That's incredible. But yeah, but I think it's going to be individual for each company. So if we start here, we start inwards, then we're going to intuitively know what to do.
Okay.
Because that's my goal. Like, it's such a great question, but when I work with these business leaders, I want to empower them to trust their own intuition.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. Yes.
And I like your energy, you know, because the masculine energy got us to such a great place. You know, like this masculine, let's go out, let's do, let's champion, let's build things, you know, like that, you know, like your husband, like they just want to tell you what to do. Like, give me a task, babe. I'm going to do it. Like, I'm going to build you a garage. I'll build you a garage. I'm like, I don't want a garage, but sure, go nuts, build a garage, you know? And now we're coming back into that balance of that feminine, which is this nurturance. The biggest, if you are falling apart in business if you don't have a conscious aspect. If your packaging isn't compostable, if it's not like, you know, if it's not, you know, all sex friendly or whatever it is, right? It's showing that the world's consciousness is raising. This is awesome. But as the leader, if it's really important, you got to make sure that your consciousness level, you're the leader in that era.
I love that, because what you're saying, so what I'm taking away from what you're saying is And this is why I meditate more now. And I went down to the beach this morning. I'm lucky I live in Toronto next to the water, and I meditate and I start listening to my inner voice. And that's going to guide me. And that happened a lot to me when I was managing 220 stores. When it got overwhelming or there was just so much, I had to make a decision. I was like, hold on a second. I need to sit down. I need to get in touch with me. I'm going to then know what to direct. And I think that if we can all start learning that and teaching each other that and being more mindful of that, that will change business, because you'll be acting in your truest, most honest, authentic self. And generally that's coming from a loving place. It's not coming from any other place. But that's the thing I say, like, how, and that's my big, oh, can we get us there as a business leaders? Because otherwise we want to do and be a checklist. And like, maybe one thing is just yourself. If you want to really bring mindfulness and meditation in, meditation predominantly, because that's what really changes everything, like Sarah says, is to actually sit and meditate for 30 days for just 10 minutes in the morning and see what happens. You know, so that you can actually talk about that experience and start hearing yourself, and then you'll know what to do.
And this balance of like masculine and feminine energies, both in males and females rising, where this like nurturance is coming in. I think you're going to see that by treating people with lots of nurturing and care is really going to pay you back in a bigger way. Like, you know, as a soon to be mom, like I understand you have to set boundaries and tell them no. That's very important. Yeah. But my father, being he's such an incredibly aware spiritual man, you know, like he would hire women that, like he hired a woman who had terrible Crohn's. She was in a wheelchair, but she was brilliant, and no one else would hire her because she couldn't actually come into the office. And he would let her take time off. He would do this, but in exchange, she would be on call for him at Saturday night at 8 p.m. because she's like, this man helps me out so much to live my dream, that she would give my dad anything that he really needed because of that like exchange, that loving kindness that was, you know, given to the staff first, that was given back to them.
You can't pay for that, right?
You cannot pay for that.
I'm just looking at time. It's 1:49. Okay. I want to respect everybody's time. So my last question, and then we're going to wrap up, is what are you optimistic about? You're about to be a mother. Like you have a baby in September. This is brilliant. You're bringing a mini me into the world. I'm so excited to meet them. But what are you optimistic about? Because you're bringing something in that's going to lead, you know, the future of the world.
So excited. You know what I'm like? I'm kind of selfish about it. I'm not exactly all enthusiastic about Labor Day. Actually, I'm terrified. But but when my whole life, people had put this pressure on me that like, oh, well, that's not going to work. Or, oh, well, you know, when you get married, you're going to have to change. And now people still tell me, oh, well, you know, now that you're a mother, like everything's going to change. And my whole life, I've been the Elvis Stoico in my whole life. You know, when Elvis Stoico did the first 4 spins in figure skating that no one thought was possible. And then when he did it, everybody did it. That's been my entire life. I show people that tell me it's not possible, and I show them it's possible, and they're like, oh, it's possible? So I'm really excited to show people that you can be a mother and be a super successful entrepreneur. And I believe I don't have to compromise in either. I could be totally wrong, but that's what I'm optimistic about right now from my vantage point.
I love it. And you can totally be a successful mother and a successful entrepreneur.
Yeah.
It's totally doable. I mean, I raised 2 single kids, so I was a single parent. So, I mean, I don't know if they would say that I was the best parent, actually, looking back, but, you know, they got dragged around a few retail stores on the weekends and attended a few sales meetings. It probably didn't hurt them. They probably learned quite a bit. So with that, Sarah, I just want to say thank you so much for joining the Retail You Coffee Chat today. It was so awesome to get you on and talk to us about mindfulness and meditation and kind of demystify it. And just, you know, I feel encouraged and empowered. And I think, you know, we have a huge responsibility, and the work is never done. You know, I had a leader a long time ago that said to me, the work is always longer than your arm, April. If you just get to your elbow every day, you'll have made a dent in it. And I was like, whew, that made me feel better, you know. But like, this work of working humans with humans is never done. We work in a people business, and you know, that's why what drives us and gets us up every day. Hopefully, if you're not loving people, you shouldn't be in retail. That's what I would say. You're in the wrong choice of career, right? So I just thank you so much for all your wisdom and knowledge. It was super precious to have you on, and I would encourage anybody that's watching this or on this call to join Sarah's Max meditation, because like she said, it starts here, starts with us, and we can change the world through business, I believe, in the way that we show up authentically and treat others. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone who is listening and who joined this call. Thank you for your enthusiasm. I could feel your energy through the screen. It means so much to me. Thank you so much for this opportunity, April, to share. It means so much to me.
Brilliant. All right, so with that, I'll respect everybody's time and wrap up. And you know, if you like this coffee chat and you like what we're doing, when it's posted on social, please share it with your network so people find Retail You and find out what we're doing, because we're trying to really make a difference in, you know, the retail community that we love and are passionate about so much. So thank you so much.